I would like to call the regular board meeting of May 8th to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let it be noted that all directors are present except for Director Snyder. And we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Mr. Barch, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to request that we move items B and D, which is the Civic Center and the park update, to in between the presentations we have tonight. We have consultants here, and that will get them out of here, and it's cheaper on the district.
Okay, so we're going to move the park update to in between the presentations?
In between the presentations.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with the changes?
I motion to approve with the changes.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No opposition. Motion passes. We'll move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public here that would like to make a comment? And I see one representative online. Go.
I do have Armando from Rosalía Ochoa Bogue's office in the audience, and then we do have Sonia Miranda from Congressman Overnolte on Zoom.
Good evening, board members and community. We have 21 bills at this session, and 17 of them are in play. 4 bills have been held in committee. One joint bill. Also, we have this week, in the next couple of weeks, we will not be having any policy committee hearings, and only the fiscal committees will be ongoing. The legislative team is currently working on bills that were placed on the suspense file and will be in hearing on May 16. And also, Senator we are reaching out to all our growers because a senator has requested a grant for the to fight against the mosquitoes, the fruit flies. I'm sorry. That it will be a grant for them. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I jumped ahead of myself there, but item 4, matters removed from the consent calendar. Oh, one more speaker.
Yeah, Sonia, if you'd like to give your update.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm with Congressman Jay Overnolte, 23rd District. The congressman did ask for the reauthorization for the Weather Act. This bill would include the reauthorization for National Landslide Hazardous Reduction Program. This is a critical, important program to reducing landslides. You guys know that the past, less than a year, we've had a lot of issues with our weather, rain, snow, so it's causing a lot of damages to not just our roads, but landslides, especially in our rural areas. So he did bring this bill to add to the amendment, and I believe it did pass. I also wanted to share with that, we're asking if the public is willing to email no to EPA waiver at mail.house.gov. Now, this is for those constituents who are interested in opposing the CARB's EPA for the California locomotives. That way, to oppose the locomotives, to oppose CARB's, forcing them to go all electric. This is not something that is foreseeable in the near future or in the far future right now, as to force the locomotives to go all electric. So if you guys are interested, I ask that you please voice your opinion to the congressman. Again, the email that you guys can email it to is no2EPAwaiver@mail.house.gov. You can just write your first, last name, the city you live in, and put if you oppose it and the reasons why, or you can just write that you oppose it. Now, this will be a very crucial to our economy and not just to California, but the congressman's asking that this not be a California law and allow the federal government to decide when locomotives are able to reduce the emissions. So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can she mail that email, send that email to the district?
Could you send that email address to the district?
Yeah, I'll email it to Kim.
Thank you very much. And now we will move on to presentations and appointments. I'm sure it's what you're all here for, and it's great to see everybody here and everybody that participated and all these smiling faces. And we will turn it over to Mrs. Sevi so we can get started on that.
We didn't do consent items?
Oh. Consent items, does anybody want to?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 3H for just a quick comment.
Okay,
The rest I would move.
I'll second that.
so you want to pull it and discuss it? Or pull
Yeah,
it?
for
Okay.
item 4,
All right.
or number 4.
Yeah, so Mark, just to give you a heads up, this is just for distribution. You can ask questions, but this is not for approval tonight. This is just for the distribution.
Yeah, I would just like
Okay.
to add something real quick, or talk about something real quick, so. Otherwise, we've motioned and seconded to approve the rest of item 3.
Okay, so we want to make a motion to approve the item with,
I've
Your
made a
comment?
motion to approve the rest of the items in the consent items, and it was
Okay.
seconded.
all right. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion passes. And now we get to move on to presentations and appointments and why you're all here.
Item 4 is a review of what was pulled.
There were no matters removed from the consent?
Yes, I
Oh, you
reviewed.
did? Yes, yeah. Man, I'm messing it all up.
Okay,
I'm
so
excited to see all you guys here and move on to this. This is Sevi.
real quick, item 3H, on page 130, there's a list of things, and such as no burning, welding in enclosed vessels. I would recommend that somewhere, and I don't know whether it's in any other text, but we're in a high wind area, and so there should not, the district should state that we don't do welding or outside flames during high wind events, and if it's not somewhere, it should be,
Okay.
to
So
protect ourselves.
page 130 is the policy we're proposing to replace, but definitely we can add that language into the new policy.
Yeah, just somewhere we should say that we will not weld during high wind events.
Was that the,
that
honor
was-
the 10-year anniversary of the Ranchero overpass?
Yes,
burning?
that was the Ranchero overpass burning. And that's it.
Okay.
Now,
Presentations and appointments. Ms. Sevi.
It's been right 10 years.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. So we're here because your children won our 2024 Earth Day Art Contest, so yay. So I'm Kim Sevi, I manage solid waste for the district here, and this is our 6th annual Earth Day Art Contest. The winners of this contest are featured in our district calendar, so this is this year, so if you want to take one before you leave, I have extras. And so they end up being selected for one of the months, and this goes out to about 1,500 of our district customers. This is quite an honor. And we appreciate the artwork for our calendar. We received a record number of submissions this year from students within this community. And we're looking for messages that convey protecting our resources, such as protecting our earth from recycling, degradation, stuff like that, but also saving water. And so our winners were chosen by our staff members. Everybody comes in and they vote for their favorites. This year, I do have a special honor for our winners. I have Armando here with Senator Rosalisi Ochoa Bogue's office, and he's also going to present certificates alongside ours. Now, ours are a little bit better because they come with checks. So third place receives $50, second place $75, and first place $100. So, yeah. And presenting the certificates on behalf of the district is our board president, Chuck Hayes. So he's right here behind me. So when your name is called, I do ask that the students line up kind of in this area. So just hold on to your certificate, just wait for everybody to be called, then we can get you grouped for a picture, and we will make sure parents have the opportunity to take as many pictures as they want. So let's go ahead and begin our presentation. Mr. Fish, can you display it up on the board? Thank you. And let's see if I can get the mouse to connect. All right, so let's start with our third place winners. So third place in our K through third category, our first winner is Esteban Gutierrez. And anybody who's not here, we will mail the certificates. Our next third place winner is Scarlett Mihalik. All right. And our next third place winner is Bodie Walzinski. And our final third place winner is Evelyn Murillo Moron. I don't know if I butchered that, but I tried. So now we'll move on to our second place winners. So our first second place winner is Leo Munoz. And our next winner, I believe, is related to you, Hector Munoz. And our next one is Gabriel Karsten. And our final second place winner is Stephanie Jimenez. All right, we'll move on to our first place winners. All right, we have Jace Ciancolo. Did I say it right? All right, good enough. Congratulations. Our next first place winner is Eleanor May, I think that says Gernon. And we also have a first place winner, Violet Verdon. And our final first place winner, if I can get the mouse to work, is Emily Whitecotton. Okay, now for the fun part, we're going to squish you together and put shorter ones in the front, taller in the back, and we're going to take some photos if you don't mind. And parents, feel free to come on up and get your photos.
Kim will start shuffling.
You're good right there, and then you guys can just squish in together a little bit. And And then you want to get in the frame somewhere and do, are you good? Okay. And then, yeah, there you go. Take your photos. All right, don't spend all that money in one place, and you guys are, of course, free to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you are also free to leave. Up to you.
Thank you all for participating.
Yeah, thank you again for participating, and feel free to leave.
Thanks for coming. That's a pretty good reward.
Looked like Mother Nature almost or something, that one. It was all just, yeah.
You got 3 minutes. 3 minutes? You got 3 minutes.
Not this parent.
Just a summary of it. And then what the final verdict is and how we're doing.
Okay, are we ready? Then we were going to move the park update up to in between the presentations, so that's 6B.
Yes, let's start with the park update, and we have Matt here tonight to kind of walk us through the process where we're at.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me here in person. Usually I'm on the Zoom screen, so it's nice to be here. So we actually met today with the district staff. We walked the park site and looked at various elements there that we're proposing. Just to kind of go through verbally on some of the elements that we're adding to the park. So we have a couple pickleball courts. We have a community garden that's going to take place in the park. And we have a series of ADA improvements that are going through the park so that we can increase level of service, get access to some of those elements there. As you know, there's the larger build out that is in the future. So part of this design is really taking a look at that future connection going into the 14-acre park site up to the Civic Center site, and so that was also looked at today as well. In addition to that, we are looking at the parking out here and how to bring that up to current ADA standards. There's a path of travel just along the frontage here that we're looking to get down into the park site. So that can be a holistic and easy path of travel into the park site, and had some ideas as far as increasing that entrance there and making that more of a grand entrance into the park. In addition to that, there will be some planting that we're looking at, adding in some trees and some vegetation. So I was working with Steve from the district and mapping out the irrigation system so we can make that whole again. And there's other minor little adjustments here and there just to accommodate some of those added features, with really the goal of increasing ADA path of travel, bringing it up to current day standards. So I think that summarizes it. Kim, George, Don, anything to include on that?
No, I think we're good.
Just, if I can just add that Wallace Group, TRLS Engineering, they're continuing working on it, 65% submittal to the county. We received the comments from them a few months ago, and they were resubmitted, and we're just waiting for those comments back so we can move forward with the design. So they have to get a tentative approved design before they move into the details of it. I think that's it, pretty much it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me this evening.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, back to presentations, and Jen, it looks like you give this one?
Yeah, Sean and I both put it on, together, but he's gonna, go ahead and present it.
Thank you. Jen did an awesome job putting this together for us. Just a quick overview of our costs and the required actions. In 2014, when the State Water Resource Control Board adopted a 10 part per billion MCL of hexavalent chromium, and as we know that was rescinded in 2017, on April 17th of 2024, just kind of falling in line what we were thinking, State Water Resource Control Board did adopt the maximum contaminant level at 10 part per billion. How and why a public water system must comply on the page 161. Our size district, we fall into the 1 to 10,000 service connection category, so we do have 3 years compliance window from April, and that falls right in line with our capital improvement plan. We have a couple wells left to profile and one to enact the profiling. Page 162 are estimated costs and how we're falling in line with the annual cost per system for water size. It's ranging from 104,000 to almost 5 million for systems upwards of 10,000 service connections. On page 163, our estimated costs from our chromium-6 mitigation efforts is $116.52 with an estimated sunset somewhere between 2028 and 2029, depending on which way we go for well 18. And the comparison done on 164 is that the graph really helps demonstrate kind of where we're falling in line compared to other districts on profiling. Your first effort to treat a well is downhole, and we've certainly seized that opportunity. Again, we just have several wells left to profile. We have 3 years to do it. And on page 165, our comparison, if you look at systems of less than 100 and then systems of greater than 10,000, kind of where we fall in line. Well profiling is really paying dividends as being extremely cost effective, and happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Sean? Mr. Wright?
Mr. Wright, yeah, this is a great comparison for the cost effectiveness of for individuals in the district, and that should be promoted to the public.
And Jennifer did an amazing job putting this together with the graphics and
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really easy to read and tells the story there in one quick view.
The only thing I would add is that we originally thought it would be somewhere between 17 and 27 million, and what the original 2015-16 projections kind of comparison. That would be the only other thing.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
the 17 million back in, 8 years ago is not 17 millions today,
No,
based
and
on
that-
inflation.
And
Right.
that was wellhead treatment, which meant that there was a continuing cost, and trying to get rid of that material would be a nightmare now.
At that cost, yeah. So,
Thank you very
good.
much. Any further questions?
I just want to add a comment that I walked in just as that news was hitting the district, and to see how far we've come, and I sat through so many of those meetings, and I'm very impressed.
it's
So thank you.
very interesting to see their approach to the best available treatment technology. Yeah,
It's not very available.
they never approved stannous chloride, and
No.
there's inherently a lot of issues with using a tin-based acid to coagulate hexchrome. It never got approved, so ion exchange is still a preferred method.
Right. I'd like to piggyback off what he just said, that, and what Deborah said, learning about this a long time ago, Sean and the guys and, all of the staff jumped on it so quickly that I feel like a lot of people are farther behind than we are. And $9.71 on your bill, to pay for everything that you've done and everything that we're going to continue to do to make this happen is, pennies compared to, what other people are going to have to do. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank
To
you.
follow up on that, and that sunsets too. That's not going to be an ongoing, if you start doing some of the different methods of treatment, that's forever. But ours should be wrapped up, depending on how we do the future projects within a few years.
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you very much. Move on to new agenda items and discussion and possible action regarding declaration of surplus meter reading equipment. Mr. Bartz.
I'm going to pass it over to Sean.
Thank you, Ms. Bartz. Little background, it's the recommendation of staff to surplus and seek the auction value for some of the following items. We have 3 mobile transceivers. Some of the first generation, they're the really, really old reading equipment. And then we have the old reading equipment, which is the second generation. These items were rendered obsolete when the AMI, the Advanced Metering Infrastructure project, was fully implemented this February. So staff's recommending that the board declare these items surplus so we can seek the auction value and dispose of these items so they stop taking up shelf space in our warehouse.
Any questions for Mr. Wright? Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, what about seeing, are they so obsolete that no other small district, little district somewhere might benefit from, a couple $1,000s is, if we could donate them or give them to a small district that might be able to use them, I'd prefer to do that. And I don't know.
It was our intent to list the items on Gov Deals, like a government auction, but we can certainly seek that option if that's the desire of the board.
I would prefer to do that first, and then, if there's no takers. The small districts are always struggling with costs, so.
Yeah, and if they have those meters, they're going to be in trouble anyhow, so that might help them.
Well, at least give it a shot before we and as long as there's not much staff time involved in getting rid of them, that's fine.
I would be okay with that approach too, if we knew somebody that wanted them or might need them.
We're only aware of the folks taking them out, but we can certainly see if donations available.
Okay, with that being said, do we have a motion to approve the item and looking at a possible donation first?
I'll move the item with said adjustment, and if not, surplus them.
Good.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Not hearing none opposed, motion passes. Took care of item B already, so we move on to item C.
Clarification, we have not addressed item B. We did item D.
Okay,
Thank you.
item C. Or B, discussion and possible action regarding modifications to proposed Civic Center and Emergency Operations Center project. Mr. Bartz.
Yeah, I'll just take this briefly, and then Kim will probably have some input, and George might too. But we're receiving the $2 million grant from the federal government through Overnolte's office for the building. The FEMA requirements are making us raise the building pad higher than is reasonable and logical, but that's the requirements of FEMA. We've looked at options, and we said we'd bring it back to the board to figure out if it was going to be worthwhile to do this, to take the $2 million, or if we just forget the $2 million and go with the direction we were before. Paul Cook's office has offered $500,000. Kim got it from the discretionary funds to help with this process. And we also went out to look at what the costs would be. And we have the design costs and the construction costs. I don't know if we have the solid number, but it's going to be less than the $500,000 that we would get from Paul Cook's office. We have the floodproofing and building modifications for Steno, about $31,000. The grading plans, which is a big part of it, about $78,000. And the WQMP with red brick is about $7,180 for that. And staff's recommendation is that we proceed with the building taking the federal funding. And it's, I think, a greater benefit to the district than to drop back and miss out on, at this point, $2.5 million worth of grants.
I say, great job obtaining $500,000 from the county, excellent. And if that $500,000 will cover all of the cost of the grant plus the construction, the
Yeah,
extra
we believe
construction amount, that's good.
Do we have a final estimate on the, there's 8,000 yards of dirt that has to be moved, but the surveyor that we're using has looked at taking that back area of the park and taking approximately half a foot off of the fields. And just by dropping those a little bit, they're already going to be dropped down anyhow. That will give us enough dirt to where we don't have to import 8,000 yards of dirt, which would be quite expensive.
Yeah, as long as you don't need to import.
Yeah, sounds like,
Plenty of dirt.
Yeah, and if we do have to import, we can get the dirt for a great discount with our retention ponds that are coming up and some other Mojave Water Agency projects.
that is true. All right, any other questions for Mr. Bartz?
Just the 2-foot rise has been approved?
Yes, we had
all
a
you
meeting
need to
with,
do.
we had a meeting with FEMA, and they were quite pleased that we were moving forward. And when we committed to that, they were proceeding with their portion of it to help speed up that end of things too.
Okay.
And with contacts at the county, it should help with the acceleration of the plan checks, which we've been in plan check for several years now. But we think we can get this sped up too.
I just have one thing to add. We would like to modify the staff recommendation slightly for the board to authorize staff to move forward with project modifications necessary to comply with FEMA requirements rather than approve.
Authorize project modifications? No.
Yeah.
Yes, authorize the project.
Staff to move forward with the project modifications. There may be some items that have to come back for separate approval, and Kennedy can get into it.
Yeah, approval, the word approval has legal significance in the environmental review world, and the obligation of the district to withhold approval until all of the environmental review documents are prepared and adopted. And that's the point in time at which the board can exercise formal approval of anything. So this motion would be, as Ms. Sevi properly mentioned, this motion would be to authorize staff to move forward with the proposed project modifications. But approval would be down the line.
I would move the item for a vote for the board to authorize project modifications as necessary to comply with the FEMA requirements.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion passes.
That good with you, Steve?
Sounds
Yes,
like
that's
a
good.
yes. Look like a yes.
Yes, no, we're good.
Item C, discussion and possible action regarding approval of contract between the County of San Bernardino and the Phelan Piñon Hills Community Services District for the purpose of providing funding support for the Civic Center and Emergency Operations Center project in an amount not to exceed $500,000. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. I'm going to appropriately pass this on to Ms. Sevi.
Yeah, so as was just explained, in order to help mitigate costs for the changes that FEMA is requiring, I reached out to the county to see if there was any additional ARPA funding available to help. And their preference was to actually use the discretionary funds for several reasons, primarily because then they don't have to have any conflicts between two federal funding sources for the same project. So this is very nice of them to do it in this way. Luckily, the project improvements look to be about $116,000, so we'll actually be kind of money ahead with this investment into this project by the county. The contract is pretty boilerplate from the county. I've gone through it with Mr. Kennedy. We did have some proposed language modifications, which we are going to ask the county to accept. If they don't, as you're aware, with these types of contracts, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So I don't know, Mr. Kennedy, if you wanted to go over any of them?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sevi. For the board, I just wanted the board to be aware of some of these provisions because it will result in the district having to potentially modify your subcontract provisions as well in order to comply with grant agreement provisions. And one of the changes that I talked to Ms. Sevi about was in section B1, where it's the title of the project is Emergency Operations Center. What we're suggesting is Civic Center and Emergency Operations Center there. One of the things I wanted the board to be aware of at C9 on the next page is compliance with county policy. This will require this agreement will require the district to comply with county policies as well. And it's sort of the deal that gets done when you receive grant funding is, of course, there's always going to be strings attached. And so this will tie us into the obligation to comply with county policies as may be adopted. As an attorney, this is always a little, it raises the hair on the back of my neck when one party to a bilateral agreement has unilateral abilities to modify provisions simply by modifying their policy. But again, that's more or less the nature of the beast on grant agreements. Section C10 on the next page. I would like to make some language changes to that first sentence so that the confidentiality provision would apply unless otherwise required by law or court order on C10. C18 are environmental requirements. Again, we will need to modify our contract agreement, our standard contract agreement with our subcontractors who wrap in all of these provisions that are not typically part of our agreements so that we are complying with this agreement as necessary. And then a couple pages later, C38, termination for convenience. Again, this is not an unusual provision in grant agreements where, again, it allows for unilateral termination if the county at some point in time, if the Board of Supervisors at some point in time determines to no longer fund this program. And so just a heads up for the board with respect to that provision. Again, not unusual in grant agreements, but also something the board needs to be aware of. There are indemnification and insurance requirements that the district will have to meet as well. So really just a acknowledgement that grant monies do not mean they're free. It does mean that we will be assuming contractual obligations that we do not normally assume, and that we will be passing on contract provisions that we do not normally pass on. Not saying that that means that the board should not accept the money. I certainly recommend that, but it does mean that there are additional contract work that we would have to do as part of this that is that typically the district does not have to do. But nevertheless, I do recommend moving forward with this agreement, with those modifications.
Any questions for the attorney?
Yeah. Mr. Kennedy, who trumps who, county or FEMA or the federal on the environmental issues?
Well,
So maybe if you can help me understand what the conflict would be. As far as we're concerned, we'll have to comply with both.
With both.
And so at the state level, we'll have to comply with CEQA requirements. At the federal level, we'll have to comply with the federal requirements for on NEPA. So for FEMA, we've got NEPA obligations. For the county, we have CEQA obligations. Well, we have to comply with both. And if there's any conflict, we would have to comply with the provision that is most reflective of adherence to environmental requirements. So the more, we would have to comply with the more stringent environmental requirements of the two.
Okay. And you don't, Mr. Parks, you don't have any idea of the cost that might be involved in changing some of the contracts? and
So we're
additional work?
already having to modify all of these agreements because of the FEMA requirements. So if you recall, when we adopted the FEMA contract, we went through kind of the same thing with the heartburn with some of the conditions. And our contracts are already having to be amended to adhere to the federal standards. So it'll just making sure that we also incorporate the county standards.
Goes on and on, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Kennedy? No? Do we have a motion on the item? All motion to approve?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion passes. Move on to committee reports. Engineering Committee.
Meets on in a week,
Yep, next Wednesday.
next Wednesday,
And you're up again with Finance Committee
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Legislative Committee.
We meet next week, and legislative days are 2 weeks from now.
Thank you. Parks, Recreation, and Street Lighting.
Nothing new since the last time, and we meet in May also.
Waste and Recycling.
We meet next week, and I went to see the CR&R tour yesterday down at the facility down in Paris, and I'm very impressed. I will have a lot of information to offer at that one.
Thank you. And thank you for setting up that tour at CR&R. Staff and General Managers Report, Mr. Bartz.
I have nothing to add tonight.
Okay. Directors Reports, Mr. Roberts.
Nothing to add.
Deborah.
Just that I attended that, and it was very informative. I'm impressed with what all they can do with our waste. It isn't so wasteful. They're completing a cycle that will be a complete circle at some point.
Director Kuyava.
I don't have my notes, and they weren't in the packet, so I can't read them to you. But I did have the honor of hosting the ASB CSD dinner for April, and it was fascinating, but I couldn't begin to tell you what without my notes, so I'll have to bring it back next time.
Sounds fascinating.
It was
We'll have to
fascinating.
get the notes someday.
It's been a while.
And then I have no comments for tonight. Correspondence and information, Ms. Sevi.
So just our items in the packet, as usual. We have our summer fun flyer out. Cannot believe it's almost summer. Summer movie nights. The outreach continues regarding the new meters. Our annual consumer conference report is electronic this year. We do have copies available that are paper in the office. Anybody can request a paper copy if they'd like to. And Tire Day is coming up June 8th, and just a reminder that separate collection has begun. So it is getting slightly better, but we still have work to do.
And item 11, prior meeting action items.
Yes, those were all completed. It was regarding the Circle Green purchase.
Okay, and current meeting action items.
I have recorded none.
Okay. And then we'll set the agenda for the next meeting. Do any members of the board have any items you'd like to add to the agenda?
Yeah, if there are no items to add to the agenda, staff's recommendation is to cancel the meeting of May 22nd.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Good.
No further items. We will adjourn the meeting at 5:45. Thank you.